Can you all hear me? My social media family of any subscribers as well as any visitors that been of my own social media channel in our chat room or comment section. Here, let me adjust the light. Just bear with me. Oh wow, it's been quite a day already. You know, for this here particular one, which is supposed to be that being of a holiday, you know, as we have it, of indigenous people holiday, formerly called and are known as Columbus Day. Disregard or ignore the disruptions or interruptions, just certain ones of these here present proverbial neighbors from damn hell of mine. And like I have said before, stay for record, so I mention now who are of the likes of the more creepier kind, sort of type of where I'm at now, for that being one of the less preferred vicinity area neighborhood communities, or as I have said and stated for the record in previous social media broadcasts or videos, or as it is one of these here, what you call, how should I put it, of the likes of one of the predominantly ethnic minority and less safe or more poverty stricken or more crime ridden ones, especially as it be the black persuasion, if you know what I mean. Read between the lines, fill in the blanks. Compared to where I was at previously to having moved here, whereas I was in one of the preferred vicinity area neighborhood communities, being of a multiracial and less poverty stricken or less crime ridden ones. Before this one proverbial neighbor from damn hell, being of a Willie Lynch letter fulfilling black person of a male character, had taken the liberties to retaliate against me out of resentment for how my person had gone through all the proper policies and procedures of protocol, to try to bring it to the attentions of the real estate representative personnel administrators of how he himself would routinely, quite regularly, upon a daily and a nightly basis, abuse as in violate his apartment rental agreement lease, and all the while at the same time himself would likewise as well all the same disregard or disrespect my rights and privileges as his fellow neighbor of another resident or tenant. And from there, he had managed to convince the management of the building to give me the walking papers of an ultimatum that he himself should have received much rather instead of me being that of my person. After I had gone through all the proper policies and the procedures, standard protocol to not only bring it to the attention of the management of the building where I was at formerly, previously prior to then, but also as I had taken upon myself to take the liberty to try to think of it with my intentions to put forth the efforts to make contact with members of the law enforcement community, as in police officers or cops, to simply say. And whereas he himself had me kicked to the curb from there, as I was saying, as he retaliated out of resentment, and whereas the man in the building had taken the cowardly as well as way out, more cowardly as well as cheap way out by giving me walking papers that he should have received. And I have to take into consideration that is consider how the possibilities for them having, taken that route to resolve the issue or the problem I was having with him is been because he could possibly have some of such of homies who are fellow neighbors of that building where I was formerly previously at prior to moving to this one. You know, yeah. And whereas if they had kicked him out, kicked him to the curb, then maybe from there his homies, up under his suggestion of possible and potential fellow neighbors, could have decided to move out themselves to retaliate against the management for giving him walking papers, much rather than me. But then, as I said, they give me the walking papers that he should have received. And so this is where I'm at now, in one of the less preferred vicinity area neighborhood communities as a tenant thereof. So, I'm having to be that much more alert to my surroundings and the characters that are within, as I am not any longer that being of a tenant for the one I was uh, a fellow neighbor there before then, you know, as in a multiracial, less poverty stricken, or less crime ridden one compared to where I'm at now. And one of the, you know, predominantly ethnic minority and or more poverty stricken or more crime ridden ones, from having moved from one of the preferred vicinity neighborhood communities to having to relocate to one of the less preferred ones upon some such short notice, thanks to this one particular proverbial neighbor from damn hell, or one of the Willie Lynch letter fulfilling niggers or Negroes to make the rest of us black person look bad, you know, for the likes of his kind, you know. And I wouldn't put it past these neighbors here where I'm at now, being the much more treacherous ones. Like I said, they're more creepy compared to the ones being of whom I had become subject to experiencing or to be bothered with elsewhere. Therefore, would have been more crazier, and less obvious compared. No, more obvious. What I meant to correction. You know, compared to the ones where I'm at, who are less obvious. Disregard or ignoring the interruptions that cause me to get caught up in my words, because what I meant to say. Whereas these proverbial neighbors from down hell here are more obvious. I mean, less, there I go again, are less obvious compared to the ones that were more obvious where I was at prior to moving here. They're less obvious with their truth and power plays as they act more creepy or creepier, And to complement what I was saying, stating for the record, not only within the content of the basic intro or introduction for this present social media broadcast or video or whatever I said, but also for the footnotes, being of which is affiliated, associated with, and representing some and such thereof, the same as said in question of the forum period of and especially when the lights get to bothering with other neighbors' apartment doors, only after doing some and such other and have you nod and out for whatever reason, talk about a date rape girl, and slip of Mickey or Rufy into some such a woman's beverage, be it of an intoxicating alcoholic content or not, within the atmosphere for primitive properties of the facility of a lounge atmosphere, you know, tavern or pub as our kissing cousins of the Brits, as in British, being citizens of the supposed so-called mother country that are giving birth to our own supposed so-called Democratic Republic or democracy, we call it, you know, being of a drinking establishment, place of business, you know. So I have to be much more alert to my surrounding characters that in. Then, because these neighbors here, they are that much more funky, foul as damn hell, with the nigger asses. Oh, excuse my name, pumpkin. I think you get the general idea of what I'm trying to say, as the Willie Lynch letter for filling niggers or Negroes, or Willie Lynch letter for filling blacks, you know, who make the rest of us look bad, creeping and crawling, where it's bad enough to have to put up with that nonsense of making like the midnight cowboy, then to think that they could, well, she had be coming off like some sort of such type, some sorts of such types, being the spooks that sit by the door, creeping and crawling, acting snake-like and so forth. Like talk about from hounds from hell to bats out of hell. You know what I'm saying? I think get the general idea of what I'm trying to say now. If you didn't before with that last mention, but then not that this here particular present social media broadcast or video, or whatever one wants to call it, is to be of that particular subject matter regarding or making reference to all that I have explained so far as delay in producing this present social media broadcast or video. But then, if anything, it's about some or such other content, you know. And to complement that being of the name title to it being a some or such as we have a present social media broadcast or video. Whereas I had paid a visit to my old Cynthia neighborhood community with a mind's intentions as I put forth the effort to do just that, being which is to make purchases of some or such books, being of which were for sale within that particular neighborhood's mall, where it has a mall area, you know, and for one of the preferred neighborhoods that I was at before I had moved to this less preferred one, as I was saying in more words there. And so I had made a purchase, well, purchases of quite a few of some such reading material, you know, to try to keep my mind occupied, you know, especially for where I'm at now until I were to be able to relocate in the future. Hopefully, I will only be here for a short while, being as this is one of the less preferred neighborhoods, you know, so I can get back to living as a tenant in one of the more preferred neighborhoods than where I'm at now, for one of the less preferred ones for the Vicinity area, you know, within city limits, you know. Then I have yet to get my home phone established here, you know. So I'm basically just relying on my personal cell phone for this vicinity area of the neighborhood community, being in which I have to be more alert to my surroundings and the characters within it, especially if I'm hearing persons of characters going in and out of this back door to the building, being in which is right next door to that of my own apartment door, you know. You know, telling how many midnight cowboys and spooks that sit by the door could be acting out then, misbehaving. Whereas it's bad enough to have to put up with the nonsense during the daylight hours and have to think that they could be carrying on that much more during the late evening hours, you know, especially if they get involved with other neighbors' apartment doors, as I was saying in more words. But anyway, though, getting back to some of such others, let me show you all some of the books that I had made a purchase of them. And sorry for the delay of producing this particular present social media broadcast or video or whatever one wants to make of, but it is what it is, as I had explained to you all, you know, that being the very nature of the delays, you know. Okay. Via, you know, some such circumstances beyond my control, whereas I am not to blame or at fault for that mishap. I'm just going to show you some of the books. I cannot show you all what I had made a purchase, or made purchases thereof. Excuse, pardon, and forgive me for butchering the English language as we have it of the American dialect. Okay. And like say, for example, purchase this here, then some other books, okay. And then still here are some other books. All right. And at least one a couple, or a few of these others would complement where my person am at now, presently, as a tenant for one of the less preferred Centiera neighborhood communities. You know what I'm saying? The criminal riffraff within it being of some as such, stinking or stanking, like the riffraff cowards or characters that they are with their cheap 2-cent power plays to attempt to violate their fellow neighbors' civil and on human rights. I would have broadcasted much earlier, but I find myself nodding out for some strange reason or another, and I suspect that they could possibly have something to do with it, they themselves, or me having done so, until I had to shake myself awake, and if need be, I would have just postponed broadcasting if I felt that I could possibly become or be a victim of identity theft. I'm not any stranger to that, as that had happened to me before, whereas I'm having to contact the different credit unions or bureaus, and this is one of those neighborhoods that is more volatile, or will put one more at risk for becoming subjected to experiencing something of that nature of a civil and a human rights violation offense. Criminal proportions, or some of such, illegality or illegal activities. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So anyway, getting back to some of such other. Oh, and I was meaning to. It sound like I'm full of them flashing off now. Like Wilson Reagan, likewise. One with the speech impediment, speech defect, the other with the memory loss. But anyway though, yeah, I was meaning to produce this here present social media broadcast video much sooner, but like I said before, and I'm stay for record, so I say it again, stay for the record. Likewise, I was like, I'm like, what in the world? And whereas they just get me to thinking about some, or reflect upon male persons of characters, panty snatchers, closet panty snatchers, So therefore, I would suspect that there are more than quite a few, or many more, within this here being one of the less preferred neighborhoods than where I was at before then. Yeah, like right. I mean, it's real funky up in this camp, funky foul up in this building. I'm constantly hearing slamming doors, like as if they themselves are making diversion noises to cover up the sounds of them bothering with other neighbors' apartment doors, like that much more for this neighborhood being as it is, or one of the less preferred one, or as it would go about with that much more activities in that regard. That's real matter. Because I don't like to be sitting at a typewriter, computer keyboard. I'm not now. I could have just gone ahead and got this out much sooner. I feel that the work ethic is dragging because of some sabotage coming from somebody else. I wouldn't put it past these characters in this building where I'm at now. not to me dwell on the negative, and like to make like peeping toms for that map. You go to the door and see who it is. Like somebody already opened up the door and spied on you before they close it right quick. Try to make it seem like nothing like that happened, like as if all they're doing is just closing their apartment door when they could have been peeping in on you. Not to mention coming off like a home invader or intruder. User with the username of L30. Yes. Um, I would say I'm either 30 years young or past that the half century mark. Get it? Get it? It's 30 years young. Yeah, I'm pretty much so at the half century mark. Yeah. But anyway, though, getting back to some subject, not to dwell on the negative. I mean, I just hate to have had moved and that how you say move into or move back into one of these less preferred neighborhoods. But you know, a person has got to do what one has to do at some such crucial given moment in time on short notice. I mean, after all, nobody wants to possibly become or be of the rank and file of the homeless or dare the transients. So I had to consider one of my last alternative options, being of which is to, become a tenant for where I'm at now, because Mother Nature ain't no joke, Hot summers and cold winters and a phenomenal one, and especially record-breaking weather temps. And it just get me to thinking and speaking upon some of such other matters now that come to mind that, it could probably have a lot to do with how these American astronauts and Russian cosmonauts keep going up into space. I mean, what are they looking up there for, If any aliens from outer space, Martians, Venusians, etc., wanted to make contact with us on a more regular basis, they would have done it all this time for the many years, decades, or centuries that our own human species has been upon this planet Earth, along with the lesser species representing the animal kingdom or otherwise, So they're breaking the protective shield of the planet Earth that would have Greta Thunberg, an environmentalist, screaming at the top of her lungs, screaming her head off about how they're doing some and such, destroying the planet, and as well, big business CEOs with their corporate facilities or premises, properties, be it public or private, etc. Then I'm pretty much so an environmentalist myself, especially when I had most recently had become a partial vegetarian. Partial vegetarian. Yeah, I don't eat any heavy meats anymore. I don't eat much protein with the exception of fish. And the other protein would be beans. And I think I had became a partial vegetarian. And speaking upon those matters, now they come out like say for a time frame period of something like last Independence Day. 4th of July. And I've been feeling healthier ever since, regardless of how from time to time still have bouts with my general physical health and hopefully not likewise with my general mental health, if you know what I mean, read between the lines, fill in the blanks. It takes all kinds of, it takes all kinds to make a world, and certain persons, you just gotta try to learn how to properly disagree with them. And sometimes silence can be golden. You gotta just prove yourself to become or be the bigger man or bigger person by just simply walking away. Because certain persons they just feed on negativity, especially if they be of the rank and file of the criminal riffraff, creeping and crawling, looking for a Vic. To search out one Vic as in an abbreviation for victim, that they could take advantage of, that they could possibly violate the civil and human rights of, to commit a criminal offense against, regardless of the rather severe or serious consequences to be affiliated or associated with representing any crimes of hate against another individual person, against other people, being of some as such, And such is the case, the situation of the atmosphere being a much more volatile more lethal, more dangerous environment where I'm at now for Vicente area neighborhood community, where I have to be more watchful, more alert to my surrounding characters that they're in. But anyway, though, I'm about to conclude. I just thought that I should share with you all what I had done today for this here particular holiday as we have it, formerly as it was called by his name Columbus Day, being which has been renamed that of Indigenous People Day, you know. And whereas I not any longer celebrate Columbus Day for obvious reasons or purposes, neither nor do I any longer celebrate Thanksgiving, you know, and reflecting upon how Christopher Columbus was a cowardly bully, you know. Oh, thank you for that. User with the username of Ortola. As I no longer celebrate, getting back to some such, I no longer celebrate Columbus Day, you know, and I not any longer, however said, be I butchering the English language or not, once again, for the consecutive time. I'm not any longer, sorry about that if I am, I not any longer celebrate Thanksgiving. As I'm hearing it, you know, those pilgrims, the Puritans, were not all that civil toward the Native Americans or some such my Indian peeps, as I'm supposed to be a mixed breed, part Indian, part Puerto Rican. Then I'm supposed to be, what is it, part German, part Russian, you know, and then some. Italian for the matter, Gypsy, etc. Anyway, getting back to some of such other, as I'm hearing it, as I think of it with that in mind, since you try to backtrack here with reason on purpose being on, so I go on to following to continue from where and when that my person had last left off, so I could finish up as incomplete upon previous prior lines out in the same sense of word, or in order to do just that for reason purposes. Whereas as I'm hearing it, you know, those pilgrims or Puritans, they weren't all that civil, as I was saying, you know, state for the record. So I mentioned again. And to be much more specific and go into greater detail before I were to close out this particular present social media broadcast video. Whereas, you know, at one time or another, they were giving my Indian peeps some such blankets, supposedly to keep them warm for a winter season, and it turns out that the blankets that the Pilgrims and Puritans had given my Indian piece were saturated with germ viruses to make them sick in a physical kind of way, and so therefore would affect your mindsets likewise, you know. And I'm like, whoa, that's some really devastating news information to acquire knowledge thereof, you know. But anyway, on this last note of interest, I would like to say, if you haven't gotten Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, I would hope that you would think to do so now while the blood is still running warm in your veins, by recognizing and realizing what he himself had done upon the cross of Calvary on the hill of Golgotha. Show you all some of the books that I had made question of. You know, then let me show you all some such some of my knickknacks. I think I showed you all some such before, you know. I can't show you all. I will show you some of my comic books, but I don't have them. But I showed you my books, so that's even better yet. But anyway, here's some of my knickknacks, and I get back with some such of, you know. Whereas he gave his life upon the cross of Calvary to save the lost souls of humankind, you know, our Lord and Savior Christ. Whereas he made himself available to fulfill biblical prophecy, to become the perfect sacrifice, the only sacrifice for you as well as for me. Don't steal my trademark of physical justice. I'm gonna have to you know, that is what I mean. Say, copyright that sometime. Prince of Peace continue to regulate my mind. Play that Prince of Darkness. Since conclude my speech again. They're not wearing any panties. What happened to the undies? Don't ask stupid questions. You won't get any stupid answers. Not them. A perv. You're not wearing any panties. Oh, they didn't become subject to experiencing the likes of a panty snatcher, have they? Oh, where are the panties at? Your female or woman dials. You want them World War send a full moon at night, get a hold of them? Then here's some other ones. Check out that. One of them showing plenty more, you know, what you would call it than the other. Yeah. Anyway, getting back to some of such other where some our Lord and Savior Christ, the Messiah deliverer, you know, born of the Virgin Mary, had given his life upon the cross of Calvary to fulfill biblical prophecy, become that perfect sacrifice, the only sacrifice for you as well as so that many of us being of whatsoever races and whatever walks of life, facts of society, lifestyle preferences, being of the old and young alike of both two sexes, the males and females, represent not only the human species, but then nevertheless the global community within this post 911 era, a new millennium apocalyptic age, and where the doomsday clock is now at a couple few minutes to midnight, compared on to how formerly, previously, or prior to then they were at. Prior to then, we were at you know, we were prior to then we were, you know, that the doomsday clock was at a quarter to midnight. Whereas if any of us, being a whatsoever races and whatever walks of life, for the old and young like both two sexual genders, the male and female, were to profess some such faith in him, from there we become to be blessed in one regard and another, in more ways than one. First and foremost, with his salvation, then which is the only means by which any of us can or could possibly become citizens of the kingdom of heaven. And then second of all, where we will be blessed with his deliverance. But first we have got to get not just the much more important, but the most important blessing being of his salvation. Otherwise, you have nothing coming. So far as you know, his blessing is concerned. Man overpowers the woman, her arm gets broken, nose gets bloody. And of course, our God could not possibly commit sin or sinner in his presence. Then because if any unsaved unbelievers and unbelievers were to be permitted to become these citizens of the kingdom of heaven, they have not accepted Christ as their personal Lord and Savior, then heaven would no longer be heaven, but it would be a hell. And it would, it would from there be a contradiction, and it would put into question whether or not God is who he himself claims to be. And whereas it would do a great social injustice to his word, it will bring into question all of creation as well as the creator himself. Anyway, though, if you haven't gotten Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, his salvation, then your final destination would be the lake of fire, damn hell. To be assembled with the rest of the unbelievers and non-believers of the lost down human souls who will be tortured and terrorized by the devil and the demons forever. Compared to how we, as believers in God, as a Christian, aka Protestant, not supposed so-called Jehovah's Witness, not supposed so-called Latter-day Saints, etc., not Catholics or any other, false brethren, false prophet, and Antichrist, but Protestant Christian. We would be in the company of one another. Of course, that great divide that separates heaven from hell, in the company of like-minded believers, in the presence of God and his angels otherwise. Hey, but then you all take care and be safe, be blessed, not stressed, peace and love, joy and happiness. And I'll holler at you later. I can't say when, but my thoughts go out for you, and I'll be praying for you all. Hopefully you all will pray for me as well. Y'all take care. Peace.